Good morning from the Sandhills Horticultural Gardens. I am in the butterfly garden. I think you can probably see the blue bottle of the bottle tree there in the distance. So I'm in the lower section of the hillside garden. And we're going to talk about butterfly bush, all one word, or Buddleia davidii. The leaf arrangement is opposite. I'm going to zoom in here, look down here. Leaf form is simple, and the leaf margin is serrated. The serrations are very fine, though, not as exaggerated as some of the other plants we've looked at. The plant type is a shrub. It's broadleaf and deciduous. Height is large. We don't have any extra large. This one, you can see a few stems. Those are taller than head high for me. But this one is partially shaded, so it gets a little floppy. But they can be upwards of 6 to 7 to 8 feet. Form is irregular, so this plant doesn't have a nice rounded shape. It tends to be kind of stocky. Let me back up so you can see. See, it doesn't have necessarily a great shape. Not picky about soil, not picky about moisture. For pruning info, you're going to prune in the late winter ahead of the spring flush. And some people recommend that you prune it all the way to the ground. And that promotes new vigorous stems. And sometimes our flowering deciduous shrubs like this, the older and thicker the stems get, the less vigorous they become. And when they are less vigorous, they bloom less. So you always want to be sure that you've got young, pliable, vigorous stems. So these guys missed their late winter pruning this year. That's on me. But they did get it not last winter, the winter before. And so I expect them to... I will try and make sure I put them on my calendar for this year. So we're still benefiting from last year's pruning. The growth rate is rapid. Exposure to lightest sun. As I said, full sun is what they really, really want. If you see up above, the Coosa dogwood here is up above. And this once the sunlight, because it's early, once the sun comes over the trees, this is going to get full direct sun for several hours, probably till midday. And then as it crosses over behind me, it's going to get less and less full sun. And as a result, I think that's why this guy is a little floppy. Climactic hardiness zones, 5 to 9. Landscape uses. Some of the smaller forms you can use in groupings and masses. A specimen is an okay use. Shrub border is another. And then these are really great if you have a pollinator or butterfly specific garden, as we do here. They really do live up to their name. Butterflies love these plants. The flowers are showy. They're in the summer. Purple, pink, white, and yellow. So this is kind of a lavender pink here. You can see that long plume of flowers. They come in darker purples. I will say from my experience, the purples and the pinks tend to be more vigorous than some of the whites and the yellows. But, it's trial and error. You figure out what works best for you. Fruit is insignificant. Autumn color is insignificant. Leaf texture is medium. No notable bark characteristics. For cultivars, there are a ton. And when you look at them, you get variability in flower color, flower size, shrub size, etc. There are some tiny dwarf ones. I think blue chip is one of those that's popular. It's just super compact. And then they kind of go from there. So you really can just kind of dig in and figure out what's going to work best for your setting. No serious pests and diseases. Not a North Carolina native, not a U.S. native. This plant is being watched as far as becoming invasive. It does seed. I haven't had issues with it personally, but in other areas of the world, it can reseed profusely. So, like I said, it hasn't made the list yet, but it is being monitored. I found no reference to salt tolerance. Other information. it blooms on new growth. So, as such, that's why you can do a late winter pruning, because it's going to bloom on that new flush, and it will benefit from deadheading. So if I wanted to come in and, like, once you can see the original spike here is finished, and these two laterals are blooming and they're just about finished. Once those were done, I would probably come in and cut this to here. You can see these laterals are already starting to emerge, flower buds on them, but deadheading it or cutting it back to here is going to promote other laterals further down to go ahead and emerge and keep this in more constant color through the summer. It will bloom on its own in waves without deadheading, but it does benefit from it. It'll speed up the process of reblooming. This is referenced in Durr on page 160. As I said, I'm in the butterfly garden at the bottom of the hillside. There are also some specimens in the landscape in front of Steed Hall. And there are some tiny little dwarf ones in the new landscape in front of the Bradshaw Performing Arts Center here on campus. Thanks.